Bill, when the war was over, did all your group come back on a troop ship?
I was the only one of my original crew that came back on that same ship. We were in the tail end of that typhoon that hit, I thought of it a minute ago, I can't call it now. But anyway, Okinawa typhoon. We came back on a Navy PA ship, and it was rough coming back.
Did you have any problems with seasickness going over or coming back?
Everybody on there, I had heard what you do going over, and we left from the same place. Was Pittsburgh, California is where we left from and where we came back to. It's very inland in the port there at San Francisco, and they told me if you get on a sack, get in the sack, and just don't get up, just stay there. They said that latrine was they had what was it? Anyway, it was hamburger, you might say, and something else, you know. And all of them were stopped up with that stuff, and they all got sick that got up and went to the place. One of them asked me if I wanted him to bring me something. I said, yeah, bring me an apple. Well, he brought me an apple, believe it or not, but every one of them was sick. I didn't get sick. I stayed in that sack. I wasn't fixed to get sick till we got out of the swells in Sacramento, the swells and San Francisco, not Sacramento, are just, you're going to get sick, you know, if you stay there, or at least everybody I saw that weren't old seamen would get sick. So I didn't get sick there, and we went back. We were the first ship that went all the way to Pittsburgh of that size.
How long did it take?
Going over?
No, coming back from Manila.
I can't even tell you.
More than a week.
I've got a book at home. That I kept in my back pocket the whole time that tells where I was at all times and when I got back and so on, but I can't tell you. Man. It was about a month's trip. But I don't think it's a month coming back.
When you got back, did you continue practicing in Milan?
No. I was discharged, and I had moved my family back here so she'd be with her relatives while I was in service. And I came here, and they had, one of the lawyers was working at Reynolds Aluminum, was gone, and another one was an alcoholic, and they had moved all of his stuff out of the offices, and another one was in the tax assessor's office in the courthouse, was where his office was. He had one of those old anyway,
An old code?
An old code. It was a one-volume code. It was about that thick. He had that in a case like you have in a drugstore or somewhere where you had glass case and an old typewriter, and that's all he had. He didn't have a book in it other than that code. But
so
anyway,
there was an opening for a lawyer in this town.
they got after me. The president of both banks got after me to stay here. And I already had my office. My uncle had it rented for me in Milan when I got out, and I had to cancel it then when I decided to stay. He didn't like it. I don't blame him. But anyway, I didn't go back. I'm not sorry. I'm very pleased that I stayed here. I'd rather live in Hohenwald than any place I know of. I've lived all over Middle and West Tennessee.
Where was your first office?
Here, it was upstairs over the bank on the corner. It was the First National Bank then. It's Union Planters now. Downtown, right in the middle of town.
Did anybody else have an office up on that
Roger
level?
Bolden, he's partly responsible for me staying here. Dentist had moved here from Dixon. He'd gotten out of service and come here. And in December, I came here in January. And I wouldn't stay over there in Texarkana, not Texarkana, but over there at that Army base to get my teeth cleaned and stuff. And I went up there to get that done. And he had just gotten here. And he said, Elbert Adcock tells me that you need a lawyer here worse than they need a dentist. So he said, you need to think about that. This is a good place to start. So after they got after me and so on, well, of course, my wife, she never did insist that I stay here, not one time. So anyway, I decided to stay here. And at that time, I want to put this in right here because I'm so conscious of it. When I went in service, I had a 1941 Plymouth that I'd given $700 and some odd for, which was a new car when I bought it. And I sold that when I went in service, going into service, for $1,025. And my wife came back here, and she still had that $1,025 when I came back. And she kept, and that's all we had when I came here. Didn't have any law books, didn't have any library, didn't have a car. So at that time then, I went to Nashville to the used bookstore there on 8th Avenue. And you could buy used law books there at that time. And back then you didn't have to have all these law books we do now. And so I bought some of those used law books. Went out to Jackson and bought my same desk I've got in there now, which was all I had, was that and a little bitty desk for the secretary. And we spent more than that $1,000 because I need the car. Mr. Adcock let me have a car ahead of anybody else. Back then, you had to get in line to get a car. He took me to Louisville, and I saw my car come off the line. I drove it back. So I was in debt from word go, but I've kept this little book of what I've got every book of how much I've made since I've been back from the Army.
Now that's your 1946 book?
This was 46 and 47 book. And I started, first month I started was in March of 1946. And I had total income that month of $238.69, which included, for deeds, we were charging, and contracts, charging $5. I see here one item, a partnership agreement was $10. That's about all I was doing, was drawing instruments in. Trust deeds were $5. Leases were, I've got a lease here, was 50. 2 leases were 15. We had, back then, the expense I had office rent was $26. Had to buy a typewriter. That is $15 a month. And telephone bill was $1.63, and my post office box was 75 cents. The janitor was $2.50 a week. The insurance on the office fixtures was $5.55. That's for a year. Cleaning supplies, $1. Stamps, $5.50. And fella for cleaning was 90 cents. Telephone was $5.66. And my electricity was $5.
I didn't hear a mention of a secretary's salary.
Secretary, my wife, was doing that for me. She started in when I came back. She had worked all the time while I was gone. She got a job over at the courthouse and worked. And that's the reason she didn't use that money. And of course, she was also had what little the Army sent her, you know, for courthouse and service. She got some money for that. But then talk about that, the let's see, that janitor was that next month is just $2.50 on it too. So I don't know whether that's a month or what, you know. Because they probably wasn't in there but once a week, so that's probably a month.
What were you charging for divorces in 46?
$25, I remember it. I don't see one right here yet. I see a retainer, $10. Then here's a stenographer. This is Ethel Poor. $6. And $3. She must have been doing extra work, cause I see my wife was still on here at that time. Those wasn't paying her anything right then. I had my son down here in June. His janitor, $2.75. I went up on him. And yeah, this Ethel Pohl was just occasional work. That's
Now, the circuit that we practice in today includes Lewis, Hickman, Perry, and Williamson counties. Was it the same back then?
same, with the exception of the fact that Judge Smith was chancellor in Wayne County also, and the chancellor in Hickman County was from Clarksville, and that was the fellow that's Secretary of State now's brother.
The year 1946, did you feel that that was a good year financially? Were you satisfied with your work? And
I was very well satisfied with it. I don't remember what my total income was that year. Couldn't have been a lot, although I had one month here over $1,000. Oh, that's a big month, you know.
What was
that's
it?
before, that's gross, before expenses came.
But that $1,000, was there a big fee or two in there? What were they for?
One big fee, one $800 fee.
What was that for?
I'm not sure. That I'm not sure what that is for. Let's see. I'm just not sure what that's for. I don't find it.
How many people were in Hohenwald then?
The 1940 census showed a little less than 1,000 in Hohenwald, not in the county, in Hohenwald.
But Hohenwald's the only town in the county.
Hohenwald owned town in the county, but there was another incorporated town at that time, was Gordonsville.
But it's not.
And it wasn't, they weren't using it then. I was getting all their mail here when I was mayor.
Then the population today is what?
About 12,000 in the county.
And 5.5 in the city.
I would guess that. But
Do you remember the first time or two you went to court?
first time I went was in West Tennessee, of course.
What about after you came here?
After I came here, one of the first cases I had was at a bootleg joint out here on the edge of town. Somebody got killed. And I was representing defendants that didn't do the killing, but was supposed to have hid the body. And they had him indicted for being an accessory before the fact.
After the fact, sounds like if it had to do with the body.
Well, no, it wasn't a body then. He was alive, and I took that case to the Supreme Court, and that has been the benchmark case ever since. It's still in the books.
On what issue?
On, in other words, they had him indicted for being an accessory after the fact to murder, and you can't be an accessory after the fact to murder when the man's still alive. He was still alive.
At the time this defendant did
Did what he did.
I see.
And that's the first case that we had in the books.
That's the first case that you had that's a reported case?
That's the first case, and I think somebody said they looked. I haven't never seen it now in the thing, but they say they own. I think I've had about 60 cases in the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, appellate courts that I've tried. I don't know whether that's what's shown in that. I don't know whether they are just reported cases or whether or not that's all of the cases, you know. I just don't know.
How was there just one judge for the circuit thing?
There was just one judge, Judge Wallace Smith. He was the judge for these Hickman, Lewis, Perry, and Williams.
How did you get along with him?
Wonderful. He was not only an excellent judge, best I've ever seen, but if a young man just starting out would come in here and listen to him, he would really go to bat for him. What I mean, try to help him. You know, I don't mean in his decisions, but I mean in the trial and what he was doing right and wrong. And he let you know to where you could see whether or not he agreed with what you're doing or not agreed.
Now, at some point, you formed a close relationship with a lawyer in Waynesboro. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Claude Boyd had been Attorney General over there, and he was back in private practice. And I don't know how I got close to him, but I have always had a good practice in Wayne County. And Claude, for some reason or other, took a liking to me. And if I had a problem in a case, I'd call Claude. he'd give me the answer. And he would associate with him. Of course, I'd get him part of the fee when he did. But that first case that went up to the appellate court, he was with me in that case. And he was a fine gentleman, very, very knowledgeable, very fine lawyer. And
Was Roy Haggard Sr. over there then?
he was there. Of course, after that, I practiced here. Well, after that, of course, I was in the Roy Haggard Sr. told Roy Jr. Roy Sr. got me to try a few cases for him, or with him, and just before he died. And then he told Roy Jr. that if he needed any help trying cases after he was gone, to get me to do it. And he did. And we formed a partnership. That's the first partnership I had, other than Mr. Rhodes. And he had his office over there, and I had my office over here. And every case that was tried, I went over there and tried it with him. You know, I actually did the trying. But anyway,
Did he come over here?
he came over here. Nah, I think he did. Maybe, I'm not sure he did. But
What other counties did you two practice in?
we practiced in Lewis, Perry, Wayne, occasionally in Lawrence that time, once in a while in Murray. Once in a great while, you'd have one somewhere else, like in Waverly. But anyway, it was a pleasure working with Roy Jr. And we then, of course, started expanding, and I hired George Gray from the state and sent him over to Waynesboro to be with Roy. And that's when I got the boy just before you,
Jerry Foster.
Jerry Foster, who is now in charge for the federal government of the Southeast on these, like this money they gave him out here for this thing.
Economic Development Administration.
Right, Economic Development Administration. He's the chief counsel for them.
Why did Jerry leave after just 2 years?
Jerry cried. Believe it or not, he didn't want to leave. But his wife was from Knoxville, and she wanted a big city. And so her daddy ran a big restaurant up there that time. I went up there for their wedding when they got married. And anyway, he went first to Chattanooga, stayed there a short time. And then he went to, what is the town down in North Alabama? There at, anyway, he was over there a while, and then he got this job down there. I believe it's a transfer maybe from the government down to Atlanta.
Yeah.
He's in Atlanta. Well, he lives in Marietta, but
I know he comes back occasionally when
yeah.
There's some kind of event where you're the honoree.
Yeah, he did with the bar meeting when you all gave me that thing. It's on the wall back there. Jerry Scott, Judge Jerry Scott, designed, got done or something, I think, didn't he?
Yes. When Jerry Foster left because his wife, who was from Knoxville and had taught school in Atlanta, was unhappy in a small town, what did you think when you interviewed me and found out that I had a wife from Atlanta?
Well, you know, I didn't know, but Every time I interviewed anybody to come down here, I say, send your wife. Because the old boy that's in Nashville now, his daddy was head of Meriwether Lewis Electric. Anyway, he married a Nashville gal that was in the high society up there, and I had him bring her down here, and of course after she came down, well, that was the end of that. She didn't want any part of it.
He was a classmate of mine, Tidwell.
Yeah, Tidwell, he's in Nashville now, lawyer up there, good lawyer, I'm sure. He certainly had a fine background. Anyway, that's when Bess Blake called me and said, I hear you're looking for a lawyer. And I said, yeah. He said, well, I've got one here for you. It's ready. I said, who's that? He said, Landis Turner. I said, well, I'll be in Nashville on a certain day, and tell him to come to the Hermitage Hotel at a certain time. And sure enough, you walked in. You've been here ever since. When was that?
August of '67.
Well, I think it's 67, but I wasn't sure what month.
Now, during the early years, prior to the time that I became I came in the firm, what kind of cases did you handle? Did you specialize in anything?
Didn't specialize intentionally in anything. We've never had a big criminal practice at all, although I've tried some capital cases. I've tried two that I can think of very well, where the man's killed his wife twice. I've been into that. But anyway, we've never been big in criminal practice. And of course, one thing I think I may be known for in this area as much as anything by some of the older lawyers is boundary line cases, because these timber companies own these big tracts, and somebody's always getting over on the line, and we've always represented some of these timber companies like we represent Willamette now. It's a national company, and we represent throughout Tennessee that company. But anyway.
You recently mediated a boundary line case, did you not?
I did. I mediated one in London. They'd been trying to settle for 2 years.
And did you get it settled?
Yeah, I'd settled that day.
But have you ever had any training or been certified as a mediator?
Oh, don't intend to be.
So the two lawyers just agreed to...
No, the judge appointed me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he sure did. Judge Harris was the one that appointed me.
And since you've had partners over the years, you've had Jerry Scott, who went on the bench as a trial judge, and me and
Well,
Mike.
he's also went to the Court of Criminal Appeals.
Right. And Mike Spitzer, Dave Peluso,
Yeah.
Chuck Peterson, who
Was drowned or something. Had a heart attack, I think, in Florida. But he died in the water.
which office were Jerry Scott and Chuck Peterson in?
They went in the Waynesboro office after Roy Haggard died.
And did there come a time that
George Gray was in that too.
did there come a time that we separated from the Waynesboro office?
Yeah. Came a time later when we turned, sold the books and everything over there to the boy drowned.
Chuck Peterson.
Chuck Peterson.
And that was a very friendly, amicable
Oh yeah,
breakup.
there was, certainly was.
As a matter of fact, insofar as relations go in the Hohenwald office and in the Waynesboro office after Jerry Scott came in, has there ever been any serious problems between the partners
Since when?
since Scott became a partner?
Was that after Peluso?
No, it was before. Scott was already on the bench when Peluso came.
Okay. Well,
We have all gotten along well remarkably.
we got along with everybody. Got along well with Peluso as far as that's concerned, but he ran for circuit judge and was out, and so that's when he left, you know. We've got another one coming in June, as you know better than I do. It's already in practice.
That's John Hamilton, Judge Jim T. Hamilton's son, I believe.
That's right. Coming here from Lawrenceburg.
And you're still coming in every day.
I'm coming in, but I'm not coming in about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm leaving early in the afternoon, maybe as late as 4. I've got everything I think done now that I wanted to get done, with the exception of I've got to write a brief and try a case in the Court of Appeals. It's been up there twice already, this third time. Domestic case.
Now, you tried a boundary line case in Wayne County a couple of months ago.
That's right.
And I believe you tried it without any other lawyer backing you up. There wasn't any second seat.
Yeah.
And
No, my only thing is I think it's time for me to quit. I'm 86 years old, and I think it's well past time.
I was acquainted with your mother, and my recollection is that she was mentally and physically healthy, a little past 90.
No. She lived to be 87, died in 72, and up until about the last, I brought her up here from Milan, and she lived with us about a year in our home.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was out here in the hospital for months.
Did she suffer a broken hip?
No, I don't know what it was really. She had cancer, but I don't think it was cancer.
What do you think the differences are between practicing law in a place like Hohenwald and in a place like Nashville?
Okay, I can answer that right quick. I wouldn't practice in the city. When I got out of law school, I could get $50 a month in Nashville with a good law firm. I mean, a nice one. I can't get past your Carton and Dale. No, it's one of those well-known firms. I don't remember which one it was now. But anyway, the old boy that was one of my teachers up there. Anyway, I'm talking about the school now. But anyway, if you practice in Nashville, Knoxville, or any other city, you're going to get pigeonholed. You're going to try all of one thing. You're not going to try anything else. I can't take that. I want something different every day. And brother, here you get something different every day. That'd drive me nuts doing the same thing every day. Now, they become probably better lawyers at that one subject than they would otherwise, particularly nowadays when we have all of these changes in the law constantly. But if you're in a small town, you get a different type of practice. got something new, you get a new challenge, and I like that challenge. I like trial lawsuits. I've been a trial lawyer during my time, and I just think it's a place where I belong. Now, some people may like that. I wouldn't. No way.
You mean like you wouldn't like being in the city and
I wouldn't
specializing in
I
anything?
wouldn't want to specialize in one subject. No way.
Do you think rapid change in the law is the biggest change you've seen since the way things were when you started?
Oh, it's been that has been too in recent years. I don't think there was a lot of change there for a while. But used to, if you learn to base decisions on a subject, like Judge Smith's card file, and every time you got a change, he noted it on that card. If you still had that, you wouldn't have in near as many lawyers, I don't think. But nowadays you have to have a gobble of lawyers, because like the medical profession now, you send them to about 4 different lawyers, just like my doctors. I go to 4 different doctors. You know, I don't go to that many now, but I did same time.
Well, how many judges do we have now?
We have 4 in this circuit.
So,
instead of 1.
well, there was one, I guess, on into the 70s. I know there was one when I came here, and then, and now we have 4.
Yeah.
What do you attribute the need for that to?
I think the legislature likes to stay in Nashville, and they want to have to do something to justify being up there. So it change now they're about 1,000 cases a year, as I understand it. Well, look at 1,000 changes in the law or additions to the law. That's absolutely absurd. There's no excuse for it, in my opinion.
Have billing practices changed over the years, or?
Yeah, this hourly business, which I don't like at all. First place, I don't want to have to keep up with it. I do, by necessity. But used to, when you get through with the case, that's when I would charge them, and they'd pay me when I got through. I'd know what I had done and what I hadn't done and what I thought the case should be worth. And I never had the reputation, I don't think, of ever overcharging anybody. In fact, I've had some people pay me more than I charged them. It hadn't happened many times, I understand. It's happened several.
The problem that many of us have with the hourly rate is that it maximizes inefficiency and penalizes efficiency.
Yeah, and I know some lawyers in this area, and you do too, that they start that clock running, and it just wears you out, because all they're doing is running the bill up, in my opinion, and making you run your bill up when there wasn't any justification for it. And I think we have too many of those kind of lawyers.
Have your clients over the years come from one class of people, or have they represented a cross-section of the area?
It's been everybody. The people with no money to the people with money.
What about business and financial insurance companies, those kind of clients?
Of course, we've always had, like we represent as you well know, we represent the city and the county here, represent the city of Lowell, represent Willamette Industries, represent Tennessee Farmers Insurance Company since it started, really. I remember when it started.
That was back in the 40s, wasn't it?
Yeah, in 40s, early 50s. But anyway, that's we've always had clients like that, and we've apparently satisfied most of them. We represent banks. We do all of the Union Planters Banks representation here, and so on.
Now,
Do all of their runs. We have a paralegal that checks titles. She keeps them almost busy, constantly, doing nothing but checking titles for loans at Union Planters. We set up the other new bank that's up there now, Lewis County Bank, which took the place of another bank that was closed and shouldn't have been. But anyway, that's keeps her busy. Of course, Spitzer looks after most of that type of thing, and we pretty much do segregate into certain types of things to some degree, but not by choice necessarily. But I mean, it's just what happens to fall in your lap.
over the years, have you been active in bar association work?
Yeah, I was on the board of governors for 5 years, I believe it was, and back when Joe Henry was active and so on. And I was on the first, when they set up originally the, what is the thing they've got up there?
Court of the Judiciary?
Well, not the Court of Judiciary. I was on that too for 8 years, but
Missouri plan.
no, when they set up the thing that up there that
Board of Professional Responsibility?
no, not the Board of Governors, but it's
House of Delegates.
House of Delegates. I was on the first House of Delegates when it set up. I was on the Board of Governors for, on the board 4 or 5 years. And I've been fairly active in it. I was on the first that started the 5 county bar association down here, which is local counties. I think I was president of that 4 or 5 times. And, Woody Sims called me when he wanted to start the Tennessee Bar Foundation, and asked me if I'd be on it, and I told him I would.
So you were a charter member?
I was a charter member. Woody was the one that started that, Woody Sims.
Aren't you one of the few small-town lawyers who is also a fellow of the American Bar Foundation?
I'm on the American Bar Foundation. I don't know about how many there are. I have no idea about that.
What was it about bar association work that interested you? As we both know, there are a lot of lawyers who don't participate at all.
Well, Judge Wallace Smith, number one, when I came here, what I thought was necessary and so forth was to join everything was going to get to know the people first. And then, of course, we found that we didn't have any employment here, and we needed to Genesco was down from 1,003 shift work during the war down to 125 people working. So they asked me if I would be, if I'd run for mayor, and I did, and defeated the man that had been there 14 years, and kind enough to elect me. And then I stayed in office for 16 years.
Did you have any opposition after the first time?
Year is the only time I had any opposition. Didn't have any the next 16 years.
Now, back then, was being mayor a full-time job?
No. All we did was hire a what is Camille?
A recorder?
City recorder ran the show.
You mentioned Camille. Now, that's your daughter.
That's my daughter. She's
city recorder now. After,
but she doesn't run it. The mayor now is full-time. But he is elected to the same office I was, but now they hire the mayor to be city manager, you might say, and so they pay him for that outside of the regular order. I was a member of the Court of the Judiciary from '79 when it was formed. Joe Henry formed it. I give him credit at least. Through 1987, 8 years you were allowed to serve on it in a row. I was a member of the State Board of Equalization from 1959 to 1975, and from 1978, I believe it was, when I was also co-chairman with Beverly Briley and mayor of Nashville on the state of Tennessee intergovernmental committee that Buford Ellington wanted to set up with the state, the 3 levels of government. And I served as co-chairman of that with Beverly from 60 to 67 when I went out as mayor. We built the golf course here, and I was president of that for 7 years, and chairman of it, or whatever you call it. I was elected commander of the American Legion in the first year I got here, and I served on it. I've been a member of it ever since, of it, and the VFW as well.
During your years as mayor,
I was typical mayor of the year in 1958.
During your years as mayor, what kind of relations did you have with the man who is so well known as being the political leader in Lewis County, J. Howard War?
Very close relationship. The man never asked me to do anything in other words, the way he'd always approach, I knew how he approached. Say, what do you think about so-and-so? You'd tell him, and if that wasn't the way he wanted it, he'd drop the subject right then when he's talking to me. The man was very instrumental. Of course, as you know, he was chairman of the State Board of Equalization,
Commissioner of Education.
Commissioner of Education, and he ran it. And he's one of the few that's run it. Yeah.
Did you find, on the whole, his influence to be helpful to the county?
Definitely it was. He puts this vocational school here, of course, and he put the school over at Columbia, what do you call it?
Community college.
Community college over there on this side of town. I spoke at that, trying to get it put here, but of course, political boys really jumped on that. They didn't want him to be able to put it down here in his town. So he located it physically on this side of town where it'd be closer for the kids going over it.
And then Lewis County got the vocational tech school as a consolation prize.
That's right. It's done very well.
So when you were mayor and in charge of the city government, your relations with him were friendly, and there wasn't rivalry or disagreement?
Wasn't any rivalry at all. I was on the National League of Cities. I was a member of the executive committee of the National League of Cities and on the advisory council of National League of Cities. And
is that what's now known as the American Municipal Association?
that's right, same thing. Or it was the national cities then, and now it's got a different name. I don't know if it's the same one or not. I think it was two at one time.
Now, you were president of the Tennessee Municipal League.
I was president of Tennessee Municipal League, vice president and member. And I was very active in the national organization as well as that one.
What does the Municipal League do?
It has set up like this organization up at the University of Tennessee to advise cities, and particularly small cities, in the operation of government, of their government, and works on legislation and so forth. It's very helpful, very helpful.
Why did you go out of office after your fourth term as mayor?
Well, I wanted to go out the term before, but some of them got after me to stay, and I did. And of course, 16 years is too long for anybody, I think.
Your political activities, have they, for the most part, been on the Democrat side, the Republican side, or neither one?
Basically, I've run as a Democrat. I don't agree with the Democrats all the time, particularly now. And if I don't agree with them, I don't vote with them.
Did you ever run for anything else besides mayor?
Yeah, I ran one other time. We had what we called a flotilla representative back then. That was in Murray County and Giles County, Wayne County, Lewis County, and Giles County. I think I carried my opponent's home county, Murray, but he carried Giles, and where he was working, he had a phosphate business, and he beat me 300 votes.
That was for the state legislature.
That's for the state legislature.
Okay. And that was in the Democrat primary because the Republicans
Right.
weren't
Right.
active then.
Right, a long time ago. I lost that one. And I was a charter member, of course, of the Court of Judiciary, Tennessee Court of Judiciary, when it started. And I think I've already mentioned that.
Now, your daughter, Camille, is city recorder, and how many grandchildren has Camille given you?
She has 2 children.
And they're married now.
No, one of them's married, the other's divorced.
And now, your son, Bill Keaton Jr., lives in Brentwood.
Yeah, he's retired.
What did he tell you about that?
He said, "That's getting kind of embarrassing. Here I'm retired twice, and here you are still practicing law." But anyway, my two children, I can't say enough for them. They're the best ones I ever saw. They're just perfect as far as their mother and I are concerned.
Did either one of them ever have any interest in going into the law practice?
Yeah, my son went to Vanderbilt, was studying engineering. First year went to engineering camp and all, and he came home after he'd gone to camp and said, "Dad, I'm not sure I'm studying what I want to study." He said, "Back then you had to put in 2 years in the Army." He said, I want to go on to the Army." And he went, and they sent him out there to El Paso, Texas. And he stayed out there, and then he came in when his 2 years was about up and said, "Dad, I decided I want to study law." Well, of course, I was thrilled. And I said, "Fine." Well, he got up Vanderbilt and was studying free law, and I think he got in love. His wife was in the Vanderbilt School of Nursing at that time. And so I think that changed his mind, and he went into manufacturing and stayed in it the whole time.
That was in the shoe business, is that right?
Shoe manufacturing, yeah.
And
he's had a very wide experience. He's was making regular overseas calls for a number of years there during that time. And like 16-hour flight to Japan and so forth. But
he is now 65?
he's 65 years old, will be August 18th this year.
And how old is your daughter?
And she was born in 43,
57.
57.
If you could go back to 46 and look at the choices that were available to you then, would you do them differently than what you have done?
46? No. I can't think of anything that I would have done differently, other than some mistakes I've made, of course.
But as far as
my
staying in Hohenwald and
no.
living here,
this is without a doubt. We're 1,000 feet above sea level. We're 500 feet high in Knoxville, 500 feet higher than Nashville in elevation. Climate's wonderful. The people here are wonderful. We ever get this road finished out here that we worked so hard on to 4-laned over to the thing where we can get some sizable manufacturing in here. We've got a lot of manufacturing in here, but they're small outfits other than Dana, which I got during my administration.
Was that the main reason you ran for mayor, to bring industry to
That's
Lewis
right.
County?
That's right. That's the reason we built the golf course. That's the reason we did everything we did. Nat Cowell, who used to be a feature writer for the Nashville Tennessean, was very good to us and a very close friend of mine, and he was very helpful to us. And one year he suggested we have an industrial fair. We had an industrial fair here one time.
Well, even though they were rivals, both Mayor Ben West and later Mayor Beverly Briley were close friends of yours, were they not?
Yeah, Briley was a close friend of mine, and so was Ben West. Judge, when my uncle told me to go to Nashville, he's going to get me sent up there, which he did. He told me to go see Judge Albert Williams. Ben West was in that firm, Judge Albert Williams' firm. Also, Judge Felts, Felts, was in that firm, who was a country lawyer down at Ashland City, I believe. And he was the one could write. You ask him about a certain question, he would cite you the book, page, and style of that case.
He must have had a photographic memory like John Tune is said to have had.
Yeah, and he could do it all day long. And Judge Albert Williams, I went in and see Judge Williams, and Becky Thomas was in his law firm after that, as well as Hugh Hauser and some other people that I know. And anyway, I went in that day. He said, here's a book, I want you to take it with you. Gibson, Suits, and Chanceries. No, not Gibson, Suits, and Chanceries. Carruthers' History of a Lawsuit. I want you to take this book home and read it before school starts. That school, in my opinion, I'm glad I got this occasion to say this, has saved a world of people from being able to go to law school. It did me, but I didn't have money.
You're talking about the Nashville School of Law.
Nashville School of Law. And the instructors up there all either judges or practitioners in Nashville. And you get the workings of the thing firsthand. And you're better equipped to, I think, to practice law. But anyway.
When you go into full retirement, what would be the one thing that you'd like to be remembered for, or the one accomplishment you're most proud of?
Well, I don't know. I feel like I've been successful in the practice of law. Been a lot of people that have contributed to that, made it possible for that, that I could sit here and talk about all day. I had the best uncle and the best brother in the world. But as far as accomplishments are concerned, I can't think of anything that I've done that's been great. I'm not a great person. Been very active and have been awarded a lot of honors that I probably didn't deserve. My school honored me last year.
Bill, I want to thank you for participating in this project, and I think that it's a worthy addition to our efforts to preserve and write a legal history of the law practice in Tennessee, and we thank you.
Thank you.